Technology and digital transformation forms the backbone of a lot of topics we've covered in the last 1.5 days. We heard about connectivity in the opening plenary. While physical connectivity is important and is happening, digital connectivity is even more crucial in the Himalayan region due to geographical challenges. The terrain and locations, remote locations in the Himalayan region make physical connectivity difficult and costly to establish and maintain. Digital connectivity can overcome these geographical barriers more efficiently, enabling communication and access to services regardless of the physical distance. Digital connectivity can also give access to remote communities for essential services such as healthcare, education, government services, telemedicine, online education, e-governance platforms can help reach people everywhere. We in the Himalayan region are more prone to natural disasters, unlike others. Earthquakes, landslide, I think all our areas have had some sort of disruption of physical infrastructure. Digital connectivity allows for faster communication during emergencies, enabling timely response, timely information, financial transformation through cross-border information, leading to better coordination of relief efforts. So I think we can all agree that it helps complement physical infrastructure in the Himalayan region, providing a resilient and versatile means of communication, commerce, and development. So let's take a moment to appreciate that navigating through the world of technology in this region is sometimes like trekking through the mountains, exhilarating, full of unexpected turns, and occasionally you might encounter a few digital avalanches along the way. But fear not, today I think we have the best digital Himalayan guides to help us navigate this terrain. My first speaker today is Gyani from the World Bank. She'll be giving her opening remarks. What I'd like to request the speakers is when you speak for the first time, can you also do a one-sentence introduction of yourselves? Over to you, Gyani.
Thank you, Saloni. Hi, everyone. Like Saloni said, I am Gyani Hurule. I'm from the World Bank. I work with the Digital Development Unit. I am from Sri Lanka, so far from mountains. I'm really from the tropics. But I do work in the BBINS region, so looking forward to hearing from all our other panelists. So I'll get started. Digital is often a conversation that is not often thought about in terms of regional integration, and regional integration is also not talked about in spaces where digital is discussed. So they're often operating in silos, but often as we see that more and more people are getting online, it becomes more and more important to think about digital in our efforts to talk about regional integration, because as we try to promote tourism, try to promote cross-border trade, it becomes more and more important to think about what this means. So that's what I'll try to break down in some of my sort of very cursory remarks, and then we'll get about talking about it in more detail later. So I'll start with where we are. So in the BBINS region, we have about 700 million people online of the 1.6 billion people who live in the region. That's about 45%. We've seen a lot of progress in the past few years, but then we also have to be cognizant of the flip side, which is that 55% are not connected. So the first challenge that we need to overcome is getting people online. And there we see that there are urban-rural gaps. Again, this is very relevant to people who live in mountainous ranges. We see that in case of rolling out infrastructure, for example, that's a big challenge because often it's not attractive for private players sometimes to go to mountainous regions because people are sparsely populated. So then you have to think about how do you get people online. So again, there are some unique challenges that you need to think about when you think about the mountains. And then there are also issues at the intersectionalities. So women are less likely to be online. Persons with disabilities, for example, who have various other challenges, particularly who are living in this sort of terrain, have additional challenges. So we also have to be cognizant of those and try to get people online from those perspectives. And then we also need to think about sort of how do we build that up. So there's the clear focus on increasing infrastructure, but then you also have to think about the digital ecosystem more holistically. So how do you build skills? How do you facilitate payments? How do you find access to services? How do you build the right regulation and legislation, which is a huge problem, especially when we see that there are so many developments in the space. it's tough to keep up. So how do you really navigate those situations? It's challenging, but also quite exhilarating, as we'll see from everyone here. And I'd also like to anchor to the conversations that we've been having here before. You can see that digital is very related to all the 3 C's that we've been talking about. Connectivity is a given. Yesterday, we heard, I think from the case of Bhutan, how it can build community. And then even from the past few sessions, we've been talking about climate, and again, the intersections there. So you can see that it's cross-cutting. Increasingly, in any conversation, digital becomes a cross-cutting factor. So just to think about what that means. And also, when we talk about all these different examples, we often talk about data flows and cross-border data flows. So again, when we think about regional integration, we need to think about what that really means and how do we govern it. And there we need to step back a little bit and think about what kind of data we're talking about. Often it's these sort of words are thrown about, but then the types of data that you're dealing with will often result in various different types of regulations. And I'll just sit on that a little bit. So there's, at a high level, you can talk about 2 types of data. There's non-personal data, and then there's personal data. So if you're talking about non-personal data, for example, sharing that across borders ideally should not be a challenge at all. So I'll give you an example. If you take river gauge data, for example, that can easily be used to predict when floods will happen. And we're seeing that that is happening in certain parts of the world and sometimes even in this region. But accessing that data does tend to be a challenge. So how can we facilitate that sort of data? And the sort of governance of that sort of data shouldn't be too difficult because it's non-personal. But when you talk about personal data, which means it relates to people's names, numbers, ID cards, Aadhaar type numbers, then we're dealing with additional challenges. And then there's also various types of regulations that are coming about in different countries. India, for example, and I think Nepal as well, has various different types of legislation that's coming up. So then how do you make sure that people are protected, but then you also allow for data flows to happen in a way that facilitates economic growth? And then to go a little bit further, even when you talk about personal data, you have things like financial data and health data, which are even more sensitive. So again, how do you deal with regulating those areas, which becomes even more complex, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that as we go on. So I'll stop there, looking forward to the discussion, and hopefully over the panel, I'll also be able to share what we're doing at the World Bank on cross-border data flows in the region. So I'll stop there and hand over to Saloni.
Thank you so much, Gyani, for your opening remarks. I think we can all agree that data, whether it's personal data, government data, access, the whole governance, security is a whole complete topic, and it needs a session by itself. Hopefully, we'll have time to get into some of it today. One of the points that came up with my conversation with the different speakers, and Gyani also mentioned to me, was that developing a digital ecosystem is something like building blocks in a modular manner. I was thinking about it, and then I thought you could compare digital transformation to an onion. Now you think like, why are you comparing it to an onion? Because an onion has many layers. And digital transformation is also something like that. You can't say, oh, I want point number 5 without having actually built all the previous layers, systems, blocks that need to be there. So how transformation actually happens is one layer being built on top of another, and that's what we've seen in all the countries that have actually been able to progress with it. So I think I would like to start that as a question with all my other speakers here. Is that in your region, in your specific Himalayan region, what is the current level of digital infrastructure, access that kind of exists as a layer today? And what is the next crucial layer step that needs to be taken? I'd like to start with you, Sige.
Very good afternoon. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be here. Thank you for the hospitality to all the organizers here. So just to start with a brief introduction of myself, I have been in the digital sector in Bhutan for a very long time. I started my career in Bhutan Telecom, and then I managed the tech park in Bhutan. And since 2022, I have come into the private sector. And incidentally, just from this month, I have taken a job at one of the companies that actually I helped to come into Bhutan. It's a FDI company from Switzerland. They have a big office in Bangladesh, Dhaka, and their second biggest delivery office is in Bhutan. So I think it ties in very well with the theme and the the two countries being involved in this forum here. Now, with that background, I would like to give a very brief overview of the digital ecosystem in Bhutan. I would like to give it through three lenses or three pillars of the digital ecosystem. And first and foremost, I think is the government regulatory and policy environment. And especially for a small country like Bhutan, for any development, the government has a very critical role to play because the private sector is quite small and not very developed. And for Bhutan, the government has played a pivotal role in terms of the digital development. They have given the digital a very, very top priority, and this has come right from the king himself. He has actually encouraged the senior bureaucracy to open up and to be more open towards technology. We need to look at all these emerging technologies and adopt them. So he has stressed that a lot since around 2018 and 19. And that's why even the senior bureaucrats who are sometimes a bit averse to technologies, they have become more accepting. And so I think that's one of the most important piece. And in the interest of time, I will not go into detail. So there's a lot of things about data protection and things like that. So that's at the regulatory level. And the next pillar is the infrastructure. So that can be both the soft or software infrastructure as well as the physical infrastructure. And when it comes to the physical infrastructure, the connectivity infrastructure, I feel Bhutan is one of the, maybe among the developing countries, one of the most well-connected. Our lowest administrative units are called geoks. Bhutan is divided into 20 districts and 205 geoks. Of the 205 geoks, 204 geoks are already connected by fiber optic cables to the village level. And because we have a very good transmission network, so the fiber optic cables are laid on these transmission lines using OPGW and ADSS technology. And there is only one geok in the north which is not yet connected on fiber, but they are connected through microwave radio link. So the physical infrastructure within the country is quite good, but we have some challenges when it comes to international connectivity. And there, I think in the true essence of the regional cooperation, Bangladesh and India are helping to get us another connectivity soon from Bangladesh. And the other connectivity that we have, they come through India. And the World Bank is very much involved here. The World Bank is trying to help Bhutan bring down the cost of international connectivity because that remains a challenge. Now, the third pillar is the human capacity and the industry. I think to have a vibrant digital ecosystem, we need to have a vibrant industry. There, Bhutan has a small challenge because of the small market size. But somehow, we have a vibrant community of digital workers, though it's not big. And now I am part of that because I have joined this Swiss company, which is developing software for the European market, actually. I look forward to discussing the challenges like the cost of connectivity, which is one of the highest in the region in Bhutan. I'm trying out Nepal Encel mobile data package, and it's much cheaper compared to Bhutan, and I think we have to try and work that out in Bhutan as well. And the other challenge that we have is international payments, which, one of the panelists, by the way, has some solution for that. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sige. I think we can all agree, and we'll come to it, about how cross-border payments is one of the biggest challenges, as well as for any country to develop. And I think we've seen the case with even India with the whole digital transformation that happened a few years ago. It started with Geo coming in and bringing the data cost really down. So, you first need to get basics right. You get your electricity, then you get internet accessible to everyone, you get the cost down, and then that is where, another layer on which then digital transformation is built on. Over to you, Rupesh.
Thank you, Saloni. Definitely good afternoon, everybody, and namaste. Welcome to Nepal, all the foreign delegates. I'm Rupesh. In my past life, I was an academician for almost a dozen years, and I recently joined Zuno. It's a US-based borderless banking and cross-border payment company, and that's the space that I'm at this moment in time. To start off with, even before I delve into Nepal's digital landscape, I would like to share a little bit about how I see the Himalayan region, because we need to have that perspective right, and through that lens, I see the digital transformation that happens here in this part of the world, and further down in the subcontinent. How I see the Himalayas and the footsteps is, this land has always been the land for Tapobhumi. What does that mean? It's been a land for enlightenment and spiritual seeking. And that's how I see a lot of people living in these part of the foothills of Himalayas, seeking a better future, seeking enlightenment, seeking spirituality. And I'm glad that all of you are here seeking your own enlightenment journey as well. And when I see the progress of digitalization in context of Nepal also, the digital entrepreneurs here in Nepal has always been seekers. When you look at the policy gaps, which always is there. And that's not an excuse, but despite of all those hardships, because the Himalayas itself, if you look at it physically also, it has hardships. And in the digital landscape, we see similar situations as well. But despite of all those hardships, this land has definitely one thing that has, in my honest opinion, Nepal has done right is in the digital area without a lot of government intervention. So when you look at companies that have really come out in the last couple of decades, it's been phenomenal. If you look at the digital economy of Nepal, when you look at the internet and the mobile penetration rate, it's amazing how it has really happened, both from the government entity and the private sector companies as well. So internet penetration is around 51.6% at this moment in time in Nepal. If you look at the mobile penetration rate, it's almost 135.5%. And if you look at the smartphone penetration rate in Nepal, it's hovering around 70%. So when you look at the connectivity level, it is encouraging. I would not say, okay, we have reached there, but when you look at the speed of the connectivity, it's still an issue. But we are there. When you look at the e-commerce side, because of these infrastructure, it's really ballooned in the last decade. Compared to India, definitely it's going to be small numbers because the country sizes and the economy sizes are also different. But if you look at the e-commerce industry in Nepal, it hovers anywhere around $500 million, which is very encouraging for a very young country like Nepal. If you look at the revenue expected growth by 2027, it's going to be hovering anywhere around $900 million. If you look at the adoption of digital payments that has happened in Nepal, it's phenomenal. Right now, digital payments, we are doing almost like $3.62 billion worth of digital payments in 2024. That's what's been forecasted. And this is only about to increase as the days goes by. So COVID has helped in this digital transformation. But another very encouraging numbers that I would like to share with you is the IT export. Research was conducted in 2022 where from Nepal, the IT service exports is anywhere around $500 million. And that is a formal data that has been there. But if you really account the informal way of cross-border transaction, it hovers anywhere around $1 billion. So any industry in context of Nepal doing $1 billion worth of export it's surprising. And when you look at these numbers, it's almost 1.4% of the GDP and 5.5% of the foreign reserve exchange. And that is why I say like the digital entrepreneurs in context of Nepal have been seeking their own enlightenment in this Tapobhumi. Because the hardships are there, but their journey has always been there to seek further. And definitely amazing companies. We just had a Nepal started company that is US based, Fuse Machine being listed in NASDAQ. It's a first in for Nepal. So a lot of encouraging movements in the digital landscape.
Yeah, Rupesh, I'm going to have to cut you right there.
Sure, thank you.
And move to
Critical challenge, I
Abhishek
would
and we
really
talk
not-
because then we have to move on to the next
No
question as
problem,
well.
sure.
Yeah, Abhishek.
Yeah, Abhishek.
Thank you, Saloni. Thanks for having me here. I am Abhishek Rumta. I'm a first generation entrepreneur building INT for last 26 years as a digital first company. We basically work for insurance and pharma companies and provide them tech, data, and marketing. So yeah, I mean, I have been seeing, internet came in India in 95. I jumped onto this bandwagon as an entrepreneur in 96. So I've been kind of tracking the whole journey very closely. And in last few years, there has been an explosion, if I can say that. And that's primarily based on three main pillars. The demographic dividend that India has, a very, very young population, penetration of mobile internet, right? Even in the villages, you will find people, watching video on mobile internet, right? And very low cost of that internet. And last but not the least, actually, most important is the India stack, right? I never used to believe that, government can bring a technology that can revolutionize the world at the level it has done. I mean, we generally don't expect too much out of our politicians, but India stack proved me totally wrong, right? And it said that, this is the place to be in. If this is the population scale innovation, if it's happening in India, you can't go anywhere else. So my journey with India stack or the digitization started in a big way somewhere around 2010-11 when I saw Aadhaar coming in, though I did not play any major role on that front, but I got an opportunity to collaborate on a very interesting project called MyGov, which is a crowdsourcing application launched by the current government, where they can listen to people and people can participate in, and providing their suggestion inputs. I think this is something that should be in every country. Like, I mean, when we are saying it's a democracy, right? I mean, how do people participate in governance, right? You need to bring them and get their inputs, contribution, and ideas all together, and that together is very powerful. So, when I was building MyGov, I thought, would it work in India? Like, would crowdsourcing of ideas work in India? And it's working great, as I see today. And then came UPI. So Aadhaar and UPI kind of initiated the whole concept where we saw direct benefit transfer into people's account, which cut down on a lot of corruption, a lot of leakages from different parts of the country. And these are all large-scale implementations. These are not like Microsoft coming or XYZ or Google coming in or Apple coming in and trying to do innovation which has got a commercial backing. These are projects which has no commercial intent as such. It's basically to simplify life for everybody. And I had my moment of truth when I met one of the senior officers in one of the foremost organizations in India. And this lady tells me, Abhishek, I want to convert all the digital presence of Indian government websites and assets into accessibility. So I want accessibility there. And that thought process, kind of totally hooked me in, and been working on that. So if you see some more interesting products that's coming out of India, apart from UPI, which has been talked about a lot, so I will not talk much about it because it enables, to even make a 2 rupee payment without a fees to any shop. Like nowadays, if you go to a small shop, right, you don't actually pay by cash. They themselves say that please pay by UPI, right? Because that's easier for them. They don't have to handle and give change. They can make more money in process of serving customers rather than taking and giving changes, right? Few interesting thing that's coming is, recently I was walking into Calcutta airport, Digi Yatra. You don't have to scan anything. You just keep walking till the boarding gate. And, I can't even believe that most of the countries in the world, advanced countries, Western countries, don't even have anything like this yet. They're just thinking, they're talking about it, that, you can walk through a corridor, which is like a green corridor for you from your, security gate till the boarding gate. We are closely working and seeing Bima Sugam, which is an insurance aggregator, right? I have very closely saw how commercial insurance aggregator can cause massive issues in terms of kind of monopolization in Europe and UK. And I'm seeing what Bima Sugam is doing is basically they're giving aggregator as a default. Right now, companies can come and build on top of it. And all these things kind of lie on a very interesting technology, which we call Sehmati, which is account aggregator technology. So basically, all these concepts that's coming in the India stack is all about, do I have the permission? So it's basically very simple. The person who is giving that data, it basically simply asks them a question, do I have the permission? And I mean, it's unbelievable that such a simple technology, such a simple philosophy can create such major impact. So when you are walking into an airport, it basically just asks you, on one time that, do I have the permission to share your biometric, your face data and all these data with this airport on this particular ticket? And once you say yes, it's all done.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
just
great
hold our
stuff
thought
going
onto
on.
that, because I want to come back to some of these examples that we can replicate in the Himalayan region.
Yeah.
But for now, Sige here has been someone who's worked a lot with AI or with research in that. So I had a question, since AI has been the buzzword for the last 1 year, that given your expertise in this, what specific applications are you seeing that can potentially significantly impact development in the Himalayan region, along with all the risks associated, right? Because with tech, there's also that risks come. But where are you seeing potential impact?
I would like to first start by giving a very broad overview of how AI works, because not all the people in the room are technical people. So basically, AI has become a buzzword now. But what is AI? Basically, AI is just a technology tool which has some kind of, maybe say, knowledge, or here it is called intelligence. So what is this intelligence? Actually, how does a baby recognize a fruit is an apple or an orange? Just because that baby has been told that the fruit that looks like this is apple and this is an orange with the certain color and shape. So AI learns in the same way. AI looks at many examples, and then that's how the AI is trained. So machine learning and AI are very much related. So that is how the AI tools are trained. For example, if I use ChatGPT, and then this morning actually I tried to get some help from ChatGPT to write a poem about Kathmandu. And then I have posted this on my Facebook page. I did a little editing after ChatGPT wrote the poem. So how does ChatGPT write poem about Kathmandu? It has a lot of data about Kathmandu in the public domain, written by travelers and written by people about how Kathmandu is. And based on that, ChatGPT has learned what Kathmandu is and what are some of the key characteristics of Kathmandu. So it's able to come up and then write a poem about that. So that's, on the whole, I think that's how the AI learns. And because AI learns from data, so data is very important. What kind of data you fit into it? It's all based on that. So there can be biases in an AI tool based on the kind of data that it is trained on. That is something that we have to keep in mind. And now, with regard to the kind of things that AI can be used for in this part of the world, I think generally speaking, there are a lot of AI applications. I think the sky is the limit. It can be used in education. It's a lot of applications that can be used in the agriculture sector, and of course for the tourism sector, which is very important for Nepal and Bhutan, for instance. And then, of course, in the language, culture. So I think I'll not go into the very specific tools, but there are a lot of these tools available now. When I did PhD in natural language processing. When I was doing my PhD around 2007 and 10, the tools were not well developed. Now there are so many tools, so you don't have to be a PhD, or you don't even have to be an IT expert to be able to become an expert in AI. I feel that anybody with passion can really learn and do that. So just last one, I would like to give an example. So my son is a second year IT student. Maybe he was influenced by me, he has taken IT. And he and his friends have started a startup from the college. I had no influence because I'm in the IT sector. Some of his friends or others may think that I have given the idea, but I had no influence at all. And what they are doing is they have built a chatbot, and they're selling these chatbot services to the companies in Bhutan. And they're training the chatbot on the data specific to that company, so that company's customer service can be taken over by this chatbot. So this is an example of an application that anybody can kind of come up with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sige. Abhishek, you were talking about all these stacks in India, about your experience with Digi Yatra, UPI. Maybe if you could share some more examples and even talk about what are the opportunities in the region, not necessarily just India, but Nepal, Bhutan, about how these or even more of these technologies can be adopted in the region, keeping in mind also all these cultural sensitivities, the ethnic considerations, all of that.
Sure. So I think one very interesting example that happened on a very new technology called ONDC, which is basically trying to bring together the sellers and buyers on one single platform. And this is again trying to get rid of the commercial marketplaces. So companies can come and sell, companies can come and buy and not pay any commission to anybody. Again, it's a population scale innovation and a platform that is being done by the government of India. And a very interesting example of that came out when an application called Yatri Sathi got launched in Kolkata. So Uber, we all know that there is a massive a revolt in a way against Uber and Ola because the drivers don't get paid sufficiently. And what this app does is basically replaces Uber and Ola, provides the same service, but nobody takes a cut. Right? So think of it like almost like a blockchain-based system, though it's not blockchain, and that is another reason I think government also believes that you may not need crypto or blockchain in India, and we are already giving you infrastructure on which you can build. So ONDC is an amazing product, which is you will hear more of it because these will be used to create complete marketplaces without any middleman, without giving any cut to anyone, and which will be governed by the users itself. So this is one big example, and I see a lot of other products are being developed as we speak right now. Another interesting example as we saw, in this, like I spoke about Digi Yatra, and we are seeing also on the healthcare front, all the data which even companies like Microsoft and Google failed to create central database of all health data of individuals. There is a project which is going on called Abha, in which all that data is being collected. All the healthcare businesses are being connected together. Now, the interesting thing is that the protocol which is lying below all these India's tech technology is a very simple protocol. And this means that anyone who learns how to code for, account aggregator, he knows how to code for UPI, he knows how to code for, Bima Sugam. So it's all like you just learn once and use again and again. So that's the beauty of it. When we are also moving on to one point I wanted to make on the AI front is that I think for all the South Asian countries and developing countries, the biggest risk that I see is of adoption of AI, which is being governed by private firms in US. Right? I have nothing against them. I am a product of globalization, but I feel that AI is going to help us make more and more decisions going forward. AI will be part of everything that people are going to do tomorrow, and we cannot let the algorithm of AI being controlled by foreign powers. For the independence of our decision making, for the independence of our systems that we run, and how we really see the world. Because if we are just dependent on that, so that would be, I would feel that is the next big thing the South Asian government should focus on, is to build their own LLM models, to build their own AI engine on which applications and systems should be built for this region.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. So one of the recent developments, something that happened earlier this week, was UPI was launched in Sri Lanka and Mauritius. This changes the game in this region in a way because it leads to seamless cross-border transactions, things we couldn't have thought in the past. So my question here for Rupesh is, how can cross-border payment solutions like either UPI or the work you're doing with Zuno facilitate economic growth and regional integration in the Himalayas?
Sure, Saloni, UPI has done a fantastic job. What UPI has been able to do is really integrate the local economies in this part of the world. So even for someone like Abhishek coming to Nepal, it's a seamless payment once the UPI integration is done, which is happening as we speak. So moving and traveling becomes seamless, paying becomes seamless. Because the other options that we have is either you carry a wad of cash and just hope that you don't get pickpocketed. The other one is MasterCard and Visa, and we all know what are the charges the merchants and the users face when you are swiping those cards. So in that regards, UPI has done a phenomenal job in integrating the regional economies in this part of the world. But when we still talk about international global trade, cross-border payments is still a major problem. If you look at it, right after pandemic, the way the world has changed, it's significant, you know. There are like almost 75,000 freelancers just in Nepal, and this number is even bigger in South Asian and Southeast Asian countries. And for them to receive cross-border payments is a big friction. If you use SWIFT, your charges are anywhere from $35 for the sender, $10, $15 for receiving part, then you get stifled with the Forex as well. And another major segment that is really emerging is small tech companies. Small tech companies operating locally, somewhat like what Chering was talking about his son. He'd probably put his chatbot as a service on a site, right? So, but the users could be from all over the world. How is he going to receive payments? It's very difficult. And if you look at the traditional way of payments that has been set up, SWIFT, it was mainly for big, mega trade and FDIs. And these were not designed for small firms, IT companies, or even like merchants in India. If you look at it, almost 1/3 of the Amazon's merchants are all from India. And even for them to receive cross-border payments is a major friction. And when we talk about global trade and international trade, this exists still. So in Zuno, what we are trying to do is we are trying to come and resolve this issue, because there's a disconnect between the banking in the developed world with the banks in this part of the world. And we're trying to build a platform, a bridge to connect this, where cross-border payments and borderless banking opportunities. Because when you talk about small businesses in this part of the world, they just don't need payment services. They're also looking for borderless banking. How do I connect with a bank in America? How can I have a bank account there? What are the other financial instruments that I can really leverage to make my business better locally as well? So these visibilities are required, and since these have not been done yet, at Zuno, that is what we are doing, and we've really come across a very wonderful patented fund flow where we are connecting banks in US with the banks here in Nepal. And right now, we are using the fiat rails to get these payments through. But in the future, if you talk about cryptocurrencies and stuff like that, the payment becomes even seamless, it becomes more visible, and it becomes more compliant as well, because compliance is one of the major issues when it comes to cross-border payments. And if you talk about anti-money laundering and all that, obviously, the more you make the payments transparent, compliant, the more it is efficient enough to be moved around the world. So in that regards, also like the tech stack that he was talking about, the KYCs become very important. The artificial intelligence becomes very important in it, because it seems like AI is the go-to first strategy for digital companies like us. But at the same time, the challenges that AI brings in is also enormous. It's crazy like how a fraudster can just take a two-dimensional picture and create a three-dimensional figures out of it to go through a eKYC, and the models that are there, like Abhishek was sharing with me as well, you can't detect it. You can't detect those kind of frauds. So with artificial intelligence coming in, being the first strategy for all digital companies, it also poses a lot of risks and challenges as we move forward. Yeah.
So we spoke about Bhutan, we spoke about Nepal, we spoke about India. So I have a question here for Gyani. How can all these regional collaboration efforts, things which have been exemplified with like UPI launch, with the Zuno launch, which is happening soon, be leveraged by the World Bank to support successful implementation of digital services across the region?
Yeah, thanks, Loni. And I think, the payment networks are really a great example of regional collaboration, where we're actually seeing that countries and firms in countries are working together. Like you mentioned, UPI is one such example. I think it's active in Nepal and in Bhutan. So even in the BBIN region, you're seeing some sort of collaboration. Like you rightly mentioned, they just launched in Sri Lanka as well. Right now, it's just a one-way payment system that they have. So Indian tourists, for example, who come to Sri Lanka are able to use UPI. I don't think it's the reverse is possible yet, but hopefully we'll see that in the future. So yes, that's certainly one area where we're seeing a lot of traction. And we've always been talking about this as UPI at the center, but we're also seeing examples of collaborations amongst the smaller countries. So Lanka QR and PhonePe, for example, have also signed an MOU, and they're working on cross-border regional collaboration. So again, that's very promising because that's what we want to see, right? We want to see all the countries being linked to each other. So that's promising. At the World Bank, we have a program that is ongoing. There's a larger program that's the South Asian Regional Integration Program. You would have heard from Cecile and from Mandakini yesterday. This is a subset of that. We're focusing on the digital elements. We're focusing on BBINS, so Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. And we're looking at this in a rather holistic manner. So we're looking at the financial elements, but we're also zooming out a little bit to understand what does the data governance landscape look like more holistically. And it's in its nascency, I have to admit. We started work last October, and we've tried to look at this in a very analytical, evidence-based way before we really commit to anything, because it's such a complex system. So we have 3 big steps. The first thing that we've done is we've set up a network of think tanks in the region, one think tank from each of the countries that we're working in, and they've been excellent. We had our first meeting here in Kathmandu. We're meeting in Colombo next week, so we're really hoping to see some progress in the sort of work we're doing. We've had excellent conversations via digital means every 2 weeks in the interim, so we're seeing a lot of collaboration, even from the think tank space, which has been starting point 1 for us, because just sort of making those connections has been an excellent starting point for us to figure out also what we really need to do. Step 2, which is what the think tanks are doing, is taking a very analytical approach. We're doing a legal and regulatory analysis for each of the countries. We're doing econometric analysis to understand what opening up of borders will mean for GDP, for unemployment, or employment, the converse for trade in services and various other economic factors, and then also look at what that means for certain sectors. So there's the sort of non-personal data, and then there's the financial elements, which are cross-cutting, but also thinking about what that means for tourism, for e-commerce, for health, because, again, it's such a complex ecosystem that we've been trying to distill those findings. And then step 3 is hopefully what we'll see in the next few months, which is engaging policy makers, engaging private sector, civil society, and trying to get the conversations going both at a national level and also at a regional level to see the next steps. So hopefully you'll also hear from us in the next few months.
Thank you so much, Gayani. Before we close the session and I get the closing remarks from all the speakers today, just wanted to open the floor for any questions. I think we have time to take about 2. Keeping in mind, I might have to cut you all because I need to go back to closing remarks, but just in case, yeah, we have someone on the right.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Amidst. I'm from Nabil Bank. I'm heading as the chief of my microfinance, SME, and sustainable banking. My questions to the panels is about more related about the digital economy. So in this rapidly evolving landscape and the digital economy in the South Asia, how can policymakers strike a balance between fostering innovations and ensuring inclusive growth to address the social disparities? So I just like to throw some lights. The purpose of this question is, AI is not only bringing the opportunity, but also bringing lots of challenges and disparities in the world. So to address this part, so how the best way to involve and engage the communities and entire society to revolve the economic part? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question about AI as well. Specifically, I want to ask a question regarding how AI could be used by leaders with authoritarian tendencies to exploit democracy. You must be well aware of the fact that AI can create extremely realistic looking images, and it has the ability to replicate sound exactly as well. So there's a company named 11 Labs, and with probably a minute or 3 of input, they can replicate my voice and all of yours. This has already been used to some extent by some leaders to spread division, hatred, and misinformation. So my question to you is, how can we protect ourselves and our fragile democracy from people who could use AI to spread disinformation?
Thank you for your question. I think let us take 2 questions, and then if we have time, we'll come back for another round.
So I think broadly the question is about misuse of AI and technologies that we have at hand, right? So that is why I think a lot of my colleagues will disagree, but I think we need a governance framework around it. First of all, because a lot of people say internet is free. We should not have governance. If we don't need governance there, then why do we need governance in our physical life? Why do we need police? Why do we need law? Why do we need courts, right? So because so much of things are now moving on the digital framework, right? We definitely need it. Second thing that we can do to balance this out is digital education. So earlier we were talking about rich-poor divide. I would say that we should be more concerned about the digital divide, where someone is digitally educated and there's other portion which is not digitally educated, where we also have, older parents of people like us, plus a lot of people who are not having access to the digital education. So I think governments should take special care of delivering digital education to as many people as possible so that they can understand what is what. And last but not the least, I think we also need to spread the message of, adoption of emotional quotient, social quotient, and common sense above, what we call intelligence quotient. Because intelligence quotient can be programmed into the AI models that we will have for tomorrow, but emotional quotient, social quotient, and common sense cannot come through AI, unfortunately.
I would like to try to answer the second question. I don't have really direct answer as such, but I will give you a perspective. So like most technological tools, so there is a good side as well as bad side to AI, and you are right, it can be exploited by maybe authoritarian regimes as well as fraudsters and the scammers, and it's already happening. So I think one of the ways to try and protect ourselves, maybe from the fraudsters, but I'm not sure about the authoritarian regimes, is to really be aware and be educated about this kind of possibilities of being scammed or being defrauded. So I think probably it comes to education and awareness to a lot of extent. So because these challenges are there, so the questions around ethics of AI is a big thing today. There is a lot of research and a lot of debate on ethics of AI. And there is also debate about the question of tech neutrality. We tend to say that technology is neutral, just like a knife or an axe. It can be used to cut wood or it can be used to harm someone. But there is also argument that technology may not be totally neutral. Like I mentioned, AI depends on the data that it's trained on. And sometimes it may be deliberately trained on a biased data in order to harm someone or harm a group of people. So this kind of things are there, and probably we have to be educated and we have to try and live with it, or maybe see how it evolves. And last note, because AI is already here, in order to be productive and be competitive, we have to use AI. We have no choice but to use AI. How many people in the room here use ChatGPT to help you with maybe drafting a formal communication? Yeah. So it is actually really good at it, but of course you have to do the editing. So if you are not using it, I feel that we should start using. But at the same time, if you are drafting a sensitive communication, please do not directly copy and paste onto ChatGPT, because that may be saved and then it may get into the wrong hands as well. So if it is very confidential information, please be aware of that.
Thank you so much, Sige. He mentioned how many people here use ChatGPT. This morning I was thinking, I have a session right after lunch. How many people are going to be sleeping? How many will walk out of the session? So I literally wrote down on ChatGPT, this is what my topic is, this is what my pointers are. Maybe you can help me with how can I have a light introduction to this session. And it was helpful because I hope I was able to catch everyone's attention while starting out. In the interest of time, I know you have a question. Maybe you can catch one of the speakers after that. We'll just quickly move into the closing remarks for the session with all the speakers. Gianni, I would just like to start with you, and then maybe we can move from this side. What is your vision for the future of digitalization in the Himalayas?
So my vision, with or without digital, is that the Himalayas will be resilient, it'll be developed, and it'll continue on its developmental trajectory, and it'll be free of poverty and vulnerability. So that's step one, and then we'll see to what extent digital can help with that. So that's the long-term vision, and then just to have a conversation about that, we'll continue to think about how we can make our policy frameworks sort of future thinking so that it can make use of the opportunities because the technology is always changing while protecting ourselves from the various challenges. So very much like the question that us panelist asked. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Abhishek?
I think internet has connected all of us, and I think it should not matter if a person is living in a small village in Nepal or he's living in Manhattan. So I think internet penetration, digital penetration should solve that problem, where we educate our masses, we tell them what is safe, what is unsafe, and also educate them and give access through free internet or even paid internet to a level so that their capabilities can be sold globally. Right? The world should be a flat place, not for corporations only, but also for individuals, so that they can also build careers, they can also participate in global economy and can live a richer life, richer and more prosperous life.
Rupesh?
Okay, definitely like future looking, despite the other policy issues and all that, what I really truly agree with what Abhishek a while ago shared was we need to own our own AI data models. And it needs to be prioritized as well. So like it or not, AI is here. It seems like it's a wild, wild west for all of us, but like it or not, it's here to stay. I told one of my students, like in the 90s, if you did not know how to use Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and PPTs, you were sure not going to get a job. But the ones who learned it got a job. So same thing at this juncture of our world, AI first strategy is going to be there. It's not only going to be used by the fraudsters, but it's also going to be used to connect the divide. And what I see future looking in this Tapobhumi is, how about an AI data center in the Himalayas, where we can store the knowledge, where we can store our learning models over there, so that we can have our own indigenous, own prioritized, it might be climate change issues that we need to compute, right, to get a better solution. Why not look at a future where the Himalayas itself, where spiritual seekers have always come to know what life is, how about also digital seekers coming to Nepal, coming to meditate in this land, setting up AI data centers, and solving the local problems that we have where there are digital divides between the haves and have-nots? Why can't we make it a flatter world even through connecting digitally? And that's what I see. That's what I see. And I hope that's what we can take away with this session as well.
Thank you, Rupesh. Sige, your closing remarks.
Thank you. I have 3 quick wishes or the dreams for the Himalayas when it comes to digital sector. Firstly, I hope there will be a unicorn. I'm not sure whether it's already there, coming from one of the countries other than India. From India, there are many already. So from Sri Lanka or Bangladesh or Nepal. Yeah, okay. I think Rupesh is going to be the next unicorn. All right. And the second one, let us remember that we need better cybersecurity. So I hope our countries will be able to implement better cybersecurity measures and be more secure digitally. And third, I hope there will be more exchange and learning between the countries in South Asia. This forum is one example. So the entrepreneurship ecosystems in all these countries are very encouraging and vibrant. But the exchange between these countries is currently kind of limited. I hope more exchange can take place. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sige. And so just to wrap up the session, to sum up everything that we spoke during the last 1 hour, we delved into what is the current state of digitalization in the different regions, the different Himalayan regions. We spoke a lot about using AI for development, all the problems that can come with it, some of the digital opportunities in the Himalayan region that maybe have happened in India and can be replicated, cross-border payment solutions like Zuno, regional integration initiatives that the World Bank is doing and World Bank's role in supporting these successfully. Like climbing Everest, navigating this path of digital transformation also requires careful consideration. We need to leverage technology, but we also need to do it sustainably so that no one is left behind, like we spoke about. We also need to make sure that we figure out what is the emotional quotient, using common sense, think about digital education, awareness, beware of deep fakes. So think about cybersecurity. Vision that we all came up with was, maybe in the near future, the Himalayas can have their own AI center. Vision for unicorns, maybe from Nepal, Bhutan, or Bangladesh, countries other than India, better cybersecurity laws, and most importantly, bridge the gap between different regions and ensure that no one is left behind. So we need to make sure that during the same time doing all of this, we also preserve the region's heritage, ecological diversity, just so that we can keep in mind and that climate, connectivity, and community go hand in hand. Thank you, everyone.